In this video, we're going to look at the Data Protection Act, which is one of the core legal acts that you need to know about for your exam preparation. And it's still an act that is applicable for most exams, even though the GDPR has kind of overwritten it in many ways as to what we need to be aware of from a student perspective. Now, with any question like this, I would suggest that you go and find some longer answer exam questions related to the Data Protection Act. Your teacher should be able to sort of point you in the right direction, because it's only practicing these. The knowledge is one thing, but being able to apply it to the scenario is where most of the marks are in questions like this. So there are 8 principles of the Data Protection Act. And they are all around protecting the idea of what we call personal data. Now, personal data is defined by the exam board as any individual piece of data that can identify a living individual, and quite often it's the part that says living, which is where particularly maybe like A level, you won't be awarded a mark if you don't state that fairly obvious fact. The 8 principles are all listed on these slides that you can sort of have a look, have a see. Do you need to remember all 8 for the exam? Probably not. What I would suggest to you though is that you have a fairly good working understanding of what some of these different points mean. So if we kind of look through some of them in turn, if we are going to sort of say fairly and lawfully, well, what we're going to suggest from this is that the person has consented for the data to be kept about them. So when you tick a terms and conditions box on a website and you sign up for something, you are saying that you are willing for them to handle your data in a fair and lawful way. Now, there can be interpretations as to what they actually do with that data, but ultimately they are bound by law to look after it. The data should be adequate, relevant, and not excessive, so they can't ask for things about you that are not relevant to the information or data that they need to hold. So they can't sort of start to look at very personal aspects of your life if they have absolutely no reason to sort of be doing that. They must take active measures to keep your data up to date. So if any of you have an online bank account and you ever log into it, what you'll notice is that occasionally it will ask you, have you changed your email address, your password, your address, whatever, and it's their way as an example of making sure they keep up to date with the regulations of the Data Protection Act to ensure that your data is kept up to date as well. And most schools at the beginning of a school term, a new school year rather, will hand out a copy of your of all the data that's held about you, and you often have to sign that off to say, or your parents have to sign it off to say that yeah, everything on this data is accurate, and that's the school's way of making sure things are kept up to date and accurate. Data should be kept safe and secure, and there'll be separate video tutorials on how we keep things safe and secure, but we principally earmark them as either physical or logical protection. So physical barriers being things like swipe cards and door locks and safes, whereas logical protection being virtual methods such as like firewalls, usernames and passwords, and tiered levels of access. So you can only access certain parts of a system if you have a need to do so. And then data should not be transferred abroad without adequate protection. So at the current state, it shouldn't be transferred outside of the EU. So that's just a bit of a summary. Like I say, it's always better to go and find some exam questions on a topic like this, but it does give you an overview of the principles nonetheless.